Neither one of us was named interim coach of the Indianapolis Colts today with no coaching experience. That honor goes to Jeff Saturday, UNC legend, Colts legend. He was part of the UNC radio broadcast with Jones Angell. He was named the interim football coach of the Colts after they fired Frank Reich today?
That's taking tanking to a new level, isn't it?
Are you impressed?
I kind of am. Kind of.
Let's make a mockery of hiring practices in the NFL after an entire offseason where there was much hand-wringing and fretting over what exactly NFL owners are doing of putting people, minority hires a top priority. Jim Irsay is like, nah, screw it. We got qualified guys on staff. No, we don't. Screw it. We're going to go with a consultant, because that's what Jeff Saturday apparently was for the Colts, and we're going to name him the interim coach going forward. Who's going to call plays? They fired the OC.
That was last week.
Last week.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you look at the NFL leaders, and I get it, Matt Ryan's not mobile, he's not young, he's not whatever.
Yeah.
If you look at the NFL leaders, though, in passing yards per game, Matt Ryan's fourth in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they benched him because they didn't, first of all, they don't want to pay him next year. I get that part of it, because they don't want him to get hurt, and then they would owe him more money next year, and they don't want it to, for whatever cap reason, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But they benched him because they didn't want to be good. And then they fired the offensive coordinator because Jim Irsay is like, no, you guys don't get it. I don't want you to be even competitive. And Frank Reich probably spoke up a little bit this week with Sam Emlinger and said, Jim, seriously, what are we trying to do here? And I'm sure Jim said, we're trying to get the number one pick in the draft. Because their performance against the Patriots this week, what did you think Bill Belichick was going to do to a rookie quarterback?
Right.
He's done that. He's done that when people are trying, let alone tanking.
Yes.
I mean, it just reeks of, their only formula as a Colts franchise has been, well, if we could just get the number one pick and we don't screw around and take Steve Emtman, we'll be fine. As long as we take a quarterback, we'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. You like Frank Reich as a Panthers coach?
I don't hate him.
Yeah. I mean, are we going to separate? Because the thing about the Colts, it's important to note that they've made poor decisions.
But is Carson Wentz going to be the quarterback with him?
No.
That's the thing you need to worry about.
I think Frank Reich realized, oh, you know what? I couldn't say. I get the first go-round. Because every coach has the hubris of, this is my guy, I can fix him. All right? I can fix him.
I had worked with him with the Eagles.
Worked within the Eagles and everything else, and they're part of that Super Bowl run and everything else. So, that I get that attitude the first time. Obviously didn't pan out, and Frank Reich did get rid of his dude. Even Reich understood, oh man, my job's on the line for you? Nah, I'm good. I'm moving on from you. And we've talked about this a bunch with the Colts as it relates to how many opportunities do you get to have not just one, but two franchise-changing quarterbacks in Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. And you screwed it up the second go-around with Andrew Luck. So I don't know how much of this you put on Frank Reich, who has a long resume, a coaching resume as an offensive coordinator, and it's somebody that the Panthers could probably use. Plus, there is a connection with the Carolina Panthers and Frank Reich. He was the first QB for the Carolina Panthers. He actually has the first touchdown in Panthers franchise history. You know who he threw it to? That might come up in a "You're full of it." That's a good "You're full of it" question for you later on in the show. So that's the big news of the day. Oh, speaking of Peyton Manning, I can tell you who he doesn't want calling plays.
His former center?
His former center, Jeff Saturday. This is from ages ago, one of these supercuts of Peyton Manning getting really, really fired up about stuff. Here is Peyton Manning telling Jeff Saturday that he will call the plays, not his center.
Hey, quit calling the plays, all right?
Hey, we got to run the ball. Six down
Let me pass, block. We'll run the ball.
Can we run it down there?
Just play
We
center.
run it down
Yeah,
there.
Jeff,
Okay, so
we will. All right, when we call pass plays, block. He's calling plays. He's calling plays.
So that was the first interaction was with him and Jeff Saturday on the side. Just two teammates having a difference of opinion, right?
I can imagine being Peyton Manning's center is a difficult job. I will say that.
That's probably the case.
Look, there's crazier things here than hiring a former NFL player who obviously still follows the league closely. whether it's on TV or not. I mean, there's someone who played the position, played it with Peyton Manning, played it with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay.
Joe,
I kind of sort of can see it.
I know what you're getting at, but in this environment, you can't. You can't. I'm sorry. You just...
Well, it's not like you can have an open search, though, in the middle of the season.
You can elevate somebody within the organization. And I guess the workaround is that he's a consultant, so he's already part of the organization. But Jeff Saturday's spending most of his time outside the Colts organization. Sure. He's busy on ESPN, and he's busy doing UNC games from time to time.
Listen, I think this is taking tanking to another level.
It is.
But I also could see... What do we do this all the time with baseball. Let's take it with baseball, right? Did you play catcher at any point in your life? Oh, you could be a manager, right? Like that's so center. Yeah, it's a pretty important position in the offense. So that's all I'm saying. He's worked with two pretty good guys. He had an outstanding career. There have been less qualified people. It just so happens to be he works for ESPN. He did a high school stint where he was 3-7. I actually have more respect for him that he went and coached high school football than that he did. So I'll put it that way.
A lot of former players will go back and do that.
There are a lot of people who claim they love coaching and they just want to coach. You know, when they get fired. And I told this to Tom O'Brien, who actually went down in Charleston and actually volunteered at the school. I said, if you love coaching that much, go to the local high school.
You'll do it.
And work with the tight ends. Go to local high school, work with the offensive line. If that's what you want to do. I mean, you're getting $1 million from state.
You know that's what Bill Belichick's going to do when he finally moves on from the Patriots.
Absolutely.
It's the OG alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies. Speaking of tanking, the Carolina Panthers aren't quite tanking. Here's what I think happened with the Panthers. I think the Atlanta game broke them. Okay, the Atlanta game gave them some semblance of purpose. Like, hey man, if we can beat the Falcons, we might actually be sitting on top of the NFC South.
Yeah.
All right, they can actually compete in the division. That's something to fight for. But the way they lost that game, I'm of the belief it broke them, and that's what we saw on Sunday against the Bengals, where I think Joe Mixon just scored another touchdown for me in fantasy. Appreciate that. So regardless, the Panthers are officially done. How do I know this? 2 reasons. 1, Steve Wilkes, the interim coach, fired some more dudes today, including Syracuse legend Paul Pasqualoni. He also decided to name P.J. Walker as the starting quarterback for Thursday's game. Well, why would you do that after, I think the bloom on the rose for P.J. Walker has kind of fallen off. We kind of understand what he is. He's a backup quarterback. Baker Mayfield's healthy, and Sam Darnold was activated today. So why are you going back to P.J. Walker?
Well, I know why they're not using Baker Mayfield, because it seems minor, but if he plays in 70% of the snaps, then they'll owe a 4th-round pick to Cleveland instead of a 5th-round pick.
That's exactly why.
Yeah.
I mean, to your point, if you're the Panthers and you're trying to get as much out of the draft as you can, basically replenish it, if you don't have to give up a 4th, then that's fine.
Think of it this way. If you were to try to move, like they moved up with Matt Corral, if you try to move up in the draft, it's going to cost you an extra draft pick. So
it will.
Effectively, they're saving themselves a draft pick if you look at it that way.
So that's why P.J. Walker's getting the start. At some point, Sam Darnold will see the field again.
Maybe this week.
As they play out the string. But yeah, Thursday night, according to Steve Wilkes, he's going to start. Here's Steve Wilkes from his press availability today on who's going to start Thursday. Or this is from yesterday, actually, but we got the start today. But here's what he had to say yesterday.
I couldn't tell you right now, Darren, and we'll be able to sit here and look at a few things, talk to the staff, and I have that answer here soon.
Well, the answer was today, and it's going to be P.J. Walker. But keep an eye on that with Baker Mayfield. 70% of the snaps, and that changes the draft pick from a 5th to a 4th to the Cleveland Browns. It looks like they don't want Baker Mayfield to have 70% of the snaps.